I won the Futurity in 1999 on a little Palomino mare, SHANIA CEE, owned by Billy Cogdell. Well, I remember they had inducted me in the Hall of Fame that night, and plus it was my first time to ever make the Futurity finals. So both of those things were pretty overwhelming and humbling, coming from a background of having nothing, and it just seemed pretty incredible. So that night up to that point had been pretty overwhelming, so I was very content with, hey, whatever happens tonight is going to be special anyway, So that was a big night for me. A lot of big things took place that night. Yes, sir. What was funny is about Shania, in regards to what was my favorite thing about her. She was a horse, when you worked her, was extremely intelligent, never felt extremely athletic. There were things about her, if you were going to create the perfect horse or the horse that you thought you would win the Futurity on, she might not possess those traits, and so I just felt like showing her, that I would just do the best I could do, cut as good a cow as I could, let her handle it. What I had no clue of until I got there, and I think all of us learn this a lot of times about our horse, is she had gears and heart and try that I didn't know working her was in there. And what made her so incredible, the only horse in my career that ever did this, she would be good through the go-rounds. But when you got to the finals at any cutting and the crowd got into it, that little yellow mare grabbed gears, and I would just look down and think, wow, where did that come from? Because that wasn't the horse she felt like daily when you worked her. And after Abilene is when I really learned that. The Futurity obviously was good. Abilene, she showed me some gears I didn't know she had. And it helped me the rest of her career because I didn't expect so much of her when I worked her every day. Well, the way I got Shania, I always felt like was just a extreme example of how loyal and how trustworthy a person Billy Cogdell was. He had sent me, I had bought her father for him, and they'd bred some mares, and he had sent me several colts the first year, and I had 5 of them, and they were just nice little horses, but nothing about them was special. And so I told him, that I had better horses than all 5 of them, and so he took some of them home. He took some to a couple other trainers. And so for a few years, 2 or 3 years, I can't remember how many years passed, he didn't send me any horses. We stayed friends and stayed in communication. And then one day he called me and he said, hey, I think I have a 2-year-old that I want you to ride, that J.W. Lindley had her, and he already had her doing really, really well. And he wanted me to go look at her at the practice pen when she was 2 at the Futurity. And so I went and watched her. She looked pretty good that day. But what I never forget was the confidence Billy had in me to come back and say, now I think I have one you'll like. And so then I took her home, and really, just what I've kind of already said, I didn't realize she was special until I got to showing her, and especially when you would get to the finals, she would just do things that she didn't do every day working. Looking back, there were 2 people at the pre-works, Frank Merrill and Phil Hansen, both told me, you're going to win the Futurity on that mare. And I was like, really? Because she just felt like a really good, honest, little hard-trying horse. And Frank, especially at our pre-work he and I put on together, I worked her one day and was satisfied, but didn't come out of there thinking, boy, here I come. And Frank said, you'll win the Futurity on her. And I was like, you're my biggest fan, Frank, but I don't know about this. She showed me she was special after we'd hit the road, yeah. Winning in Will Rogers Arena is so special because we all put so much labor into it. There's so many careers that you can achieve a high level without losing so much of your own life to get there. Cutting horse training is not that way. It's not a career, it's a life. You give up a lot of things. You give up time with family, you give up a lot of things in life. Church life, you give up all of those consistent things to be a cutting horse trainer. So if you ever get to the level to where you achieve what we all pursue, that gold buckle in Will Rogers Coliseum, it's just so rewarding because you instantly think, okay, maybe it was worth it. And the other thing is I remember on that night, I felt like every person in that building wanted me to win. It sounded like it, and I know they didn't. I know there was at least 19 other guys didn't, But when that buzzer went off, there was a feeling that everybody here wanted me to win. And that's special when you know people get behind you and want you to succeed. The first big thing I bought with my winnings was probably, I had bought a ranch in southern Oklahoma before we went to the Futurity. And I was scratching my head a lot about what I had just jumped off into. I had a great advice and great help from my friend Wes Adams. I wouldn't have jumped off in that endeavor without him. But the financial part was my commitment. He structured it. He did some amazing things to make that sale go, but then I had to learn how to pay for it. So payment number one came out of that Futurity Championship, and it took a little, it at least gave me the confidence that, hey, maybe I can pull this off and buy this ranch. The toughest thing showing in Will Rogers on finals night, I believe, is probably being containing your emotions and your adrenaline enough, but yet going for first place. There's so many guys that do that so well. I never looked at myself as that person. You know, I was broke most of my life, so I was very content to make the finals and get a check and go home and pay some bills. I never felt like I was a showman that just was like a fighter pilot and was going for broke every time. And there's guys like that. That's why they win more than I did. Plus, they're just simply better. The hard part is keeping all of that in check, but yet doing enough, trying making things aggressive enough, impressive enough to be in the winner, and not letting those emotions and the adrenaline cause you to make a little bobble that takes you out of first place. Yeah. Winning the Futurity did not change my life in any way. It made me sit down at night with a sense of accomplishment. I've always hoped, and I didn't example this well, but I hope I always understood that my worth was in my relationship with Jesus. It was hard to keep that in check when you're trying to be the very best. But what it does do, when you win that Futurity, you can sit down at night and you can say, you know, for one night, I was the best in the world. That's a good feeling. I don't care who you are. Very simple. The best run in Will Rogers Coliseum on finals night at the Futurity is Winston Hansma, C.D. Olena. I was sitting in the corner helping him. I get chills talking about it today. The first cow, I know they can't beat him right now. The second cow, I've never seen a run like this. And when that buzzer went off, I didn't care what anybody else did that night. They could not have beat Winston Hansma. It was just, that horse was perfect. Winston was aggressive, and it just fit. It was just good from the start to finish. The Futurity changed since I won it. Well, it's been 20 years now almost, and I'm semi-retired. The only reason I really go to many cuttings now is because I still love working horses and using horses on the ranch, but my daughter has a passion for this. So my goal left in this industry is to see my daughter win the Futurity. So that's what we're pursuing, hopefully someday. But it's changed so much because the horses and the horsemanship is so much better than it was in my day when I was doing really well. I'm thankful I did it when I did. I'm not sure I'm good enough to compete the way these guys are today. But I still love the purity of a good horse just taking the bridle reins out of your hands and saying, I got this. I can contain the cow, and I'm going to hold it right here. That's what Shania would do on finals night that would surprise me. She would go from holding a cow to just containing it, just not let it go anywhere. And to me, that's what cutting was. You know, when I first saw Buster Welch work Little Peppy, I was just a young kid on a ranch with my dad, and I just was amazed at how that horse contained that cow. Didn't let her get away from anywhere. And to me, that's what a cow horse cutting was. Today, I think they're so well trained, and the guys riding today are so masterful horsemen. They ride good, they show good. Everybody seems like shows a little fearlessly. They show aggressively, and there's very little room for error. In my day, you could have a bobble or a little error and you could still advance. Not today. It's too competitive.